Welcome to our video on haploid versus diploid, homologous chromosomes, alleles, somatic cells versus gametes, and also differentiation. Let's take a look. First, a quick note on the background, how DNA is organized. On the left part of the screen, you guys see stringy stuff, which is DNA. DNA usually looks like this. It's a big mess. It's called chromatin, messy DNA. When DNA is in chromatin form, which it is for the majority of its life, or the majority of the cell's life, called interphase, this is when DNA replication will occur during S phase, which is a subsection of interphase. So when DNA copies itself, it's going to look like this. You're going to have two copies now of the DNA, or a copy of the DNA that you had in there originally. And you see all the letters on the DNA strands? Those letters represent sections of DNA called genes. Genes are sections of DNA that are the instructions to make a protein. The instructions are the order of the A, T, C's, and G's. Proteins are collagen, hormones, pigments, receptors, and a whole bunch more. They control your traits or your physical and or physiological characteristics. At a certain time in a cell's life, the DNA will tightly coil up into these structures. Tightly coiled DNA is referred to as chromosomes. This only happens during M phase of a cell's life. This is the cell division phase. And if you notice, there are two sides to the chromosome called sister chromatids. Chromosomes could be this double-stranded X-looking structure, or they could be single-stranded, which we'll get into. Sister chromatids are completely identical. One side is an exact copy of the other. Because remember, replication occurred before the chromosomes formed. And also, on the chromosomes, you see these tiny sections. Those are the same sections we looked at on the left. These sections of DNA, or the sections of a chromosome that control the making of a protein, are called genes. So you can say that it's the same thing. Section of a DNA, section of a chromosome, they both mean gene. Let's take a look at alleles and homologous chromosomes, now that we have a little background. If you notice, these two chromosomes on the left, these chromosomes have the same genes. They both have gene A, and they both have gene B. These chromosomes, since they have the same genes, are called homologous chromosomes. Homo meaning the same. The chromosomes, however, they both have gene B, but it looks like one's a capital B and one's a lowercase b. They still code for gene B. These are called alleles. They're different versions of gene B. So gene B, for example, might be the gene for eye color, or one of the genes for eye color. Everyone has eye color, but not everybody has the same eye color. This means there are different versions of the eye color gene. A version of a gene is called an allele. Over here, too, on the other side, we could see gene T. There's two different types of T. Both chromosomes have gene T, but one has an uppercase T, one has a lowercase. So this could be the gene that controls height. Everyone has some height. I haven't met a person who is 0.00 inches, centimeters tall. So everyone reaches different heights when they're done growing. Therefore, these different versions of the height gene, they're called alleles. It's also important to note, all body cells, on the left-hand side of the screen, I forgot to mention, all your body cells have homologous chromosomes, meaning every cell in your body, except for sex cells, have two chromosomes with the same genes. One was from mom, the other was from dad. And these chromosomes are also homologous because they do have the same genes, maybe different versions, but still gene R and gene T are on both. Quick background check before we go into the next stage. This first cell in the middle with the chromosomes inside, this is 4 chromosomes. 4 individual structures of DNA. But when these chromosomes, or when the sister chromatids split and separate, they're going to make 2 cells that are, or that still have, 4 chromosomes. It's important to know chromosomes could be single-stranded or a single chromatid. So it really goes back to the definition. Individual structures of DNA, of coiled DNA, are called chromosomes. It could have 2 sides, or it could just be one simple chromatid. So 1 chromosome equals 2 sister chromatids that are attached, or 1 chromosome could be 1 chromatid by itself. Brings us to monoploid versus diploid. The cell all the way to the left. What would you think that is? Monoploid or diploid? Got to start by asking yourself, what does the word mono or the prefix mono mean? It means 1. The word or prefix di in diploid means 2. So, how many chromosomes have gene R and T? The green chromosome has gene R and T, and so does the blue. So how many chromosomes have gene R and T? 2. This cell is diploid. Since there are 2 chromosomes of genes A and B, and 2 chromosomes of genes R and T, this cell is considered diploid. Middle cell. How many chromosomes total are there? There's 4, because they could be single-stranded also. And how many chromosomes have gene R and gene T? Or gene A and gene B. It could be either one. There are 2 chromosomes with gene A and gene B. There are 2 chromosomes with gene R and gene T. This is a diploid cell. All these diploid cells are represented by the annotation 2N. 2N represents diploid. All the way to the right, these 3 cells, how many chromosomes are in each cell that contain gene A? There's only 1. Therefore, these cells, since they only have 1 chromosome with each gene, they're called monoploid. Mono meaning 1. The total number of chromosomes in these cells are 2. Monoploid cells, they have half the number of chromosomes as a diploid. Therefore, monoploid cells are also called haploid, meaning half the amount of normal DNA. The monoploid or haploid annotation is the letter N. So exactly what cells are monoploid and diploid in the human body? Let's grab some cells from your bones, from your muscles, from your ligaments, tendons, intestines, pancreas, liver, heart. This is what they'll look like. Again, we have 46 chromosomes. I can't draw 46. So this is what they would look like in terms of haploid versus monoploid. Your body cells, all body cells, contain 2 chromosomes for every single gene. Therefore, they're considered diploid. 1 chromosome with genes A and B came from mom, maybe the black chromosome in the upper left-hand corner. And the other chromosome with gene A and B, the gray one, might have came from dad. So body cells also have another name. They're also referred to as somatic cells. The human body, in males and females, have these different organs down here. These ones are called the ovaries, and they're going to make these cells called egg cells, also known as ovum. An egg is called an ovum. The plural for ovum would be ova. They're made in the ovaries, which are the female gonads. In the males, these cells are made. Sperm. Sperm are made in the male gonad called the testes. Both the egg and the sperm, they only have one chromosome for gene A and B and one chromosome for gene R and T. Therefore, they're going to be called monoploid. They also have half the amount of chromosomes as the body cells we just looked at. So monoploid cells are also referred to as haploid cells, represented by the letter N. Sex cells also have another name called gametes. So, what cells are monoploid, diploid? We know sex cells are monoploid, body cells are diploid. But how do the body cells get their 2 chromosomes for gene A and 2 chromosomes for gene R and T? The sperm and the egg, both monoploid, they're going to come together in a process called fertilization, which is going to restore the diploid number of chromosomes. And when the sperm and egg combine through fertilization, this is what's made, a zygote, the first diploid cell, your first body cell. We were all one cell big at one point in time, the first day we were conceived. That first body cell divides by mitosis, which creates genetically identical cells, meaning every single cell in your body is going to have the exact same DNA. Whatever DNA was in that zygote is in every single cell in your body. So all your body or somatic cells have the same DNA. They're all diploid always. Different cells carry out different functions, though, and make different proteins, because different cells, they use different genes to carry out different functions. And this is called differentiation. So all the cells in your body have the exact same instructions, exact same genes, but different cells use different parts of the instructions to make different proteins and to carry out different things. Other cells, like a liver cell and a bone cell, they're going to use different parts of the DNA because they have different jobs to do. That's differentiation. That's it. Don't forget to subscribe for more